Hey folks, before we begin today's show, I want to thank our awesome sponsors. The first is Idle Academy. Idle is the first and only authorized vocational school for instructional design and online learning. It includes a comprehensive hands-on curriculum with certifications, credentials, expert coaches, mentors, a community of practice, paid experience opportunities, industry-preferred software access, live events, and ongoing updates. Your entire instructional design career is neatly packaged behind a single login. Check out all the details at www.idlecourses.com/academy, and you can use my code Luke for $88 off the yearly membership. And folks, one more announcement. The next cohort, the 6th cohort of Instructional Design Institute, is going to be kicking off again on Monday, October 28th. If you have not heard about this yet before, this is our program to cover the fundamentals of instructional design. We cover different types of topics such as andragogy, analysis, backward design, universal design for learning, generative AI, have to cover that nowadays, as well as evaluation methods and creating different types of portfolios. We go through things every single week with live sessions. You'll be getting my feedback every single week on your assignments with lots of hands-on activities where you are going to be learning about essentially everything when it comes to being able to design a type of a meaningful, relevant, and interesting form of learning experience. If this is something that you want to be able to take part in for joining other different types of learning nerds such as yourself, well then, hey, you should apply to the next cohort. Go down below inside of the show notes. Can't wait to see you there. Okay, let's bring on the introduction music and let's start the show. Hello, learning nerds, and welcome on in to the nerdiest podcast you're going to hear today. My name is Dr. Luke Hobson, and I'm your host of this show, and I'm here to help you with all things instructional design related. And you can find all of the fabulous resources that I have for you that I've created now over the years. I've now been doing this for quite some time, honestly, is over at drlukehobson.com. And today's episode, it's Halloween themed. It's spooky because we're talking about ghosts. Yes, indeed. It is the number one question that all of you ask me about is what to do when SMEs ghost you. How do you handle this? And I get it. It's tricky. You can't force them to work with you on a project, but they are essential to getting the job done. And I would love to say that in a perfect world, everything works out according to plan and that you do establish an amazing partnership with your SME. For the most part, just to not scare you, for the most part, when it comes to being able to do this, the learning experiences that I've designed over the years, they have gone well. I have fabulous relationships with many of my subject matter experts, but we live in the real world, and sometimes it's a bit of a challenge to work with a SME, especially ones who feel like they are proactively ignoring you. So, what do? On today's episode, I want to share with you my best tips for bringing your SME back on board your project after they've been ghosting you. So I have 5 tips for you in total, and I'm going to save the best for last. There's kind of a method to my madness here for the tips, and there's certain type of order. So the first one to talk about is to reach out in a different way. I'm going to make some assumptions here, and I largely base these on my experiences with speaking with many of you over the years, and of course, from thinking about myself as an instructional designer. And I'll assume that you have been communicating with your SME via email the most. That's the way you were introduced to them. That's how you've always chatted, besides maybe an in-person meeting or a Zoom call. Email is the easiest way to ignore someone. And think about this for a second. Think of how many times someone has emailed you and you brushed it off, or you said, oh, I'll respond back to this person later, and then later never comes. The first easy tip is to change how you communicate with your SME. It is shocking how well this has worked for me over the years. My SME's phone numbers are usually in their signature, And my SMEs, by the way, they could be professors, they could be industry experts. I work with pretty much everybody on the learning experiences that I design. So when I see their phone numbers in the signature, I will pick up my phone and call them. And I have had a few be very surprised to hear that I'm on the other end of the phone, reaching out and saying, "Hi, would love to chat with you about the email I sent over to you the other day on your course. Do you have a minute to chat?" And the thing is, while it catches them by surprise, it does the job of getting their attention. The same can be said when it comes to texting SMEs or even using WhatsApp. I have done that before. Whatever information they share with you via email is another way of getting hold of them. And to me, that's fair game. If it's in your signature, I'm going to use it. And there is a feeling too that a phone call is more urgent. So it triggers a response to be able to hear from you or to get a voicemail or something along those lines. And it is a very simple way of being able to just change something up, get a quick layup, and then be able to get their attention. So the first step is just trying something different. My next tip is to make it easier for your SME to respond back to you. So in this same manner from what we were just talking about, try to make it easier for your SME to respond back. If you send these well-crafted and elaborate emails that are beautiful and have all of this information, it's too much writing. I can promise you this, because I used to send out these emails that would start with a greeting and then wishing them well and then providing a bunch of background information and a backstory for why I'm talking to them. And then eventually, I then finally give the ask. It was too much information. And for some SMEs, they like to be talked to by being direct and to the point. And that will simply get you a faster response. For instance, here would be an example of sending a quick text to a SME about booking a time for their filming. I would say something like, "Hey Jordan, this Thursday at 1 p.m. is free for the studio. Does that time work for you? Thanks, Luke." And that's it. Done. Short, sweet, to the point. This works extremely well for texting. Obviously, it's shorter. But for some SMEs who only text me, this works for them because it's their preferred communication method, and that's fine. Along these same lines, you can always write your emails differently to highlight your points. I have one friend who makes the ask in bold font, and she swears by it. She claims it brings attention right to the ask because your eyes just wander over to the bold question, and it's like, aha, I will respond back to her from just this sentence alone. And she swears up and down. That's what works to help the SMEs to sift through the fluff and to get to the heart of the matter. This could be an option for you as well if you want to be able to try it. But the point, folks, is make it easier for them to respond back to you in a much faster manner. My next tip is to be persistent, which I'm sure that some of you are going to have a problem with this one, but it is true. If you need your SME to respond, how many times do you reach out to them per week? Just think about that for a moment. If the answer is one time per week, you need to contact them more. If I think about how much my SMEs have on their plate, especially at MIT, I am the last on the priority list. For everything else that they have going on, probably not me. Even though it feels kind of gross and slimy and definitely awkward to be able to blast someone's email, I will do it. For some SMEs, they'll hear from me 2 or 3 times a week until I get a response. I can always apologize later for blowing up their phone or their inbox. And I'll usually get some kind of response like, "Hey Luke, now isn't a good time, but try again on Friday at noon." It's like, okay, done. I'll go from there. And that's that. That's really it. If you need to be relentless and persistent to get the job done, then that's what you need to do. and I promise you're not over communicating. I'm sure you think that way. I'm sure you feel that way because it feels odd. But depending upon how severe this type of project is and what you need them to be able to do, then I would definitely be persistent. My fourth tip, and one of my better suggestions here, Evan, the next tip will be the best one I have for you. But for this tip, is to use your network. If you don't have as much power and influence at your organization, find someone who does and use that to your advantage. I talk with my boss all the time about sending out an email, and then we decide who the email should come from because it carries more weight coming from her. If they see her name instead of mine, it might get a faster response. If we're talking about something that's like a serious ask, or it's a huge topic, or it depends, bad news, it all depends upon what it is, I might personally craft the message and ask her if she can just send it out. Can you send it on my behalf? And that alone is going to make a difference. The change of another person's name, especially one who is higher up, is likely to get more of a response. And sometimes it doesn't even need to be someone with power, by the way. Just having a different name is enough to stir something up. And I've seen this happen many times where I'm out of the office and I'll ask a colleague to follow up with a person about a project. And then sure enough, they get an immediate response and this person hasn't responded back to me in weeks. I'm like, okay, why? It's just the changing of something different gets that attention. So once again, give this a try. And finally, my fifth tip, my best tip I can give to you who have tried all the other steps and you are truly, truly stuck. My suggestion is to use your SME's network. If you are working with a SME and you know their colleagues, or if you are working with multiple SMEs on one project, use that to your advantage. You can put pressure on the ghosting SME to respond because their colleague is now asking them to respond to you. This works extremely well because now they feel this added pressure because they're letting their colleague down because they're not getting their work done on time. The truth is that the SMEs may happen to see each other more than you are just naturally going to see this person. For instance, I am not in the same building on campus as many of my SMEs because they're professors, they're faculty, they're in these different types of separated buildings. On a day-to-day basis, I will never see them. So if I ask one professor that the next time they run into another professor in the hallway, or if they can just go down to their office real quick and to share a message, that is going to work really well. And I have done this before multiple times, sometimes even on like a Zoom call where I say, hey, next time you see Professor so-and-so, can you pass along this message? And they're like, oh yeah, no problem. At the end of this call, I'll just go down the hallway and I'll let them know. And there you go. And it saves so much time. If you are working with senior level folks, by the way, I would highly recommend this strategy. I'm not sure in particular about why this works so well, especially for like my tenured faculty. But if I get a tenured faculty member to go talk to another tenured faculty member, maybe because they're on that same level from accomplishments and respect and experience and everything, it's enough to be able to stir the pot and to get the other person to respond back to me. But I have used this strategy many times and it works out quite well. And that, my friends, those are my top 5 tips about how to get a SME to finally respond back to you if they have been ghosting you. If there's another tip that you use and you want to be able to share with everybody, I would love for you to be able to do that. Feel free to go on LinkedIn down below. Make sure that you leave a comment there, or you can leave a comment directly on the website over at drlukehobson.com. And of course, there are always show notes that I put down for you below. You can find them inside of there wherever you listen to your podcasts and be able to find them. Of course, Always appreciate the ratings and reviews of his show. So if you do leave a comment or a review, thank you so much. Also, as a side note, thank you to all of you who reached out to me about well wishes and recovery and everything of the sorts. I came down with COVID again. It was not a fun time, where at first I was like, man, I really don't feel well. I wonder what this is. And then, oh, hey, losing sense of taste and smell. Like, there you go. That's the response. But that's why, by the way, I did not release a podcast episode last week, because my voice sounded awful. And you've gotten used to hearing the quality of this microphone and at least the sound of my voice. And if it sounded like someone else, then, that would be kind of odd. So anyway, thank you all who reached out. I deeply appreciate all of you. And that, folks, that's it officially. That is all I have for you. Oh, I lied. One more thing. The next cohort for Instructional Design Institute, the 6th cohort, does start on Monday, October 28th. So if you do want to nerd out with me and other fabulous, amazing people to learn about how to design incredible learning experiences, that 7-week course does start on Monday, October 28th. Be sure to get your applications in. I still have a few spots left. So if you want to come and hang out and nerd out, please feel free to apply away, and I can't wait to see you there. Okay, and that is officially all I have for you in this podcast episode. Stay nerdy out there, and I'll talk to you next time.